Welcome back to the Nikki Clarke Radio Show. The show is about conversations that matter, and we have people from all walks of life who come on and talk about their heart stories. And we have another wonderful individual on the line. She is from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and she is the author of a series of books. Fernanda Lazzaro is a children's book author who writes about the importance of books through her series, Tilson Bugger Adventures. And in the past, Fernanda wrote to her university newspaper and reported for her local Rogers TV station. And she's even produced and co-hosted a Canadian fitness show that is aired in Dubai and South Africa. Fernanda is fascinated with how small creatures can affect our ecosystem, and each book features a new bug where three best friends discover the importance of these little critters, but not without some mischief along the way. Please welcome Fernanda. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. Wow. Growing up, I was the only girl of two brothers. So I kind of inadvertently grew up kind of a tomboy because of my brother's influence, and the fascination they had was always bugs and frogs. Yeah. So we go out frogs, right? and collect them and do all kinds of things and observe them. So it's like when I see, the work that you've done, it's like, okay, this takes me right back to my childhood. But tell me a little bit about your background leading up to your journey in writing.
Well, as you mentioned, I was a writer for my school paper and a reporter. So, I had experience writing, and I've always wanted to write a book. I didn't know what type of book, but I wanted to be published, outside of, university, student newspapers. And, I loved bees. So similar to you, I was a bit of a tomboy. I had a brother growing up. I grew up in the middle of Toronto, so I wasn't able to play in the streets. You just had your neighbors to play with. You weren't able to cross the street because it was so busy, so you had neighbor on right side and neighbor on left side, all boys. So I was also exposed to a lot of bugs, and they fascinated me, and especially bees. I didn't understand. I knew they had a purpose. I didn't understand what purpose back then, but I loved them, Like some people love puppies, I loved bees. Let's just put it that way.
Really?
So I knew them and caress them, yeah.
Really? I knew about the honey, but I was always afraid of them.
And that's it. I'll tell you, I did become a beekeeper. So what I was a backyard beekeeper, which this is how it works in Toronto anyway, in Ontario. You're allowed to keep bees in the city as long as your bees are a certain distance from the street and your neighbor. So you have to register them with the agriculture, the Ministry of Agriculture. Mm-hmm. And as long as the neighbors don't complain, there's no problem. Okay. As long as you register them. So because bees are on the decline. So what happened was my bees swarmed. They swarmed to the neighbor's house. And they swarmed the branch, and they just freaked out. Understandably, they see just a swarm of bees, And so their reaction was, "Hey, let's burn the branch." And it just I just realized, wow, they really don't understand the importance of bees and what their function is. And then that was it. It just came to me. That's what I'm going to write about. Yeah. And I did. Sorry?
No, I think that's a really good experience to have to give you the impetus to do something like that, because not too many people have that kind of that kind of trajectory to get things going the way you have.
Well, yeah, like I said, I've always wanted to write, so it's almost like this was it. Like it just came to me that day. Instantly, and I said, I have to inform people about this because they're on the decline, and they live amongst us. I mean, we can't avoid them, and they do serve a very important purpose. Like outside of the honey, like they're pollinating our food pretty much. Without the bees, we don't have food.
Exactly.
So, right, and the story just came to me. I figured I wanted to speak to adults, but through children, if that makes any sense. So I didn't want to write a scientific book because I'm not a scientist. I don't know. I just know what my bees did. I understand just the basics of beekeeping because I took some courses at the University of Guelph. They have a beekeeping program. And just very basic understanding of what bees do. And I thought, it'd be fun to have a children's story where the children obviously will learn, but parents are reading to their children, or at least involved somehow through, or teachers involved through literacy programs. And I thought, well, this is a kind of a way of being a little indiscreet, a little discreet about how I'm going to reach the adults, right?
Wow. And it has kind of like the two-pronged effect because it's teaching both generations, right?
Exactly.
Excellent.
I think children are a little more aware. I think they're taught in school. I think it's more the adults that aren't too aware of of bees and their purpose.
Their purpose, right?
I mean, maybe they are, but I just find that they fear them. So anyone who they would come and visit my beehive, they were so fearful of it. And I thought, what, bees just want to do their thing. As long as you don't attack, they don't feel threatened, they won't attack.
Don't disturb the hive, definitely.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. So you've got this, repertoire of stories now built through the connections that you have and your observations of, the bees and what's happening in the environment. So how did the series of stories come out of that?
Well, I really enjoyed writing, and I didn't want it to stop. I thought it would stop at that one book, The Swarm That Swarmed. But I enjoyed it so much that I thought, what, I want these kids to have more adventures. But rather than using bees again, I figured I got hopefully I got to the point in the first book that maybe in the other series they're introduced to different bugs that also serve a purpose in our environment. Yeah.
Okay. Which other bugs have a kind of environmental purpose?
Well, the next book it's coming out this summer. It's called The Case of the Missing Mustache. So I don't know if I should give it away. So it's a very creepy bug that I'm actually terrified of. And when I was doing research, how Google, it records pretty much what your researches are, like your most common researches. So this bug kept popping up on my computer. Like I'm just terrified. I see this huge 10-foot. Should I mention it? Should I give it away?
Yes, please.
What the mustache is? Yeah, it's a centipede.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
scary thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yes, and they definitely, the house centipede, so they definitely serve a purpose in for the environment. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I just and then there's a third coming out, The Alien in the Apple Tree, and that's next year. So what I do is I just because I also work full time, so I'm unable to not write that quickly because I'm able to get the stories out, but I'm working with an illustrator, so I have to work with her schedule as well. And it just seems that it takes about a year per book to get them out. Yeah.
Okay. That was my next question to ask you. How long does it take to, from start to finish to, make this book come to fruition? So about a year is what you're saying.
About a year. I mean, I'm already thinking of book 3. I've already written my notes and just slowly writing it. So by the time I actually write the full manuscript and get the illustrator to draw the pictures, and they're about 20 pictures or so. It's a long process. It's about a year. Yeah, and then the launch, of course. Yeah.
So who conceptualizes the illustrations? Is it a collaboration of yourself and the illustrator? Okay.
An illustrator.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I decide on how the book will be laid out, and then and I just sketch. I can't even draw stick people, so I just draw something that resembles children, and whatever bug I'm drawing here. So just so she can get an idea of the layout, and then the illustrator keys on, amazing illustrator. I found her here in Toronto. She then interprets it. She has an idea of where things need to be laid out, and then she just does her magic. She's amazing. Like I'm so happy with her. Yeah. Excellent.
Well, I want to know how do you find it is as a children's author? Like, what are some of the joys that you get from writing these amazing stories for children, and of course the benefit too for adults?
Mm-hmm. I actually find it really difficult to write children's stories. So for myself, it's an amazing challenge because I've always written, news articles, and I've written for Omni Television as well. So it's very news. Everything is so, it's a different type of language. It's not as creative. And when writing children's stories, you have to consider so many things. Obviously the language and the creativity and what they'll learn and how things are interpreted. There's a lot going on. So for me, it's an amazing challenge. For children, I think, I actually, one child, he wrote a review on Amazon. I think it was the sweetest thing. Yeah, it was this little boy. So I knew I met the mother at work, and I said, here's a book just because she was such a lovely lady, and I met her son one day when he came for Parent Day, and he was just a sweetheart. So I said, I just gave her a book. I just happened to have one, and he read it and he wrote a review, which was so sweet, and he loved it, and he just kept, and I just found that maybe the story itself, but also the characters, how Key draws them, they tend to relate to children. And even the adventures, the children, they go through so much. Like they're getting dirty, they're getting into mischief. They're, and it's what children, they're outside playing, which I think, it's a good thing for kids.
It is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Now, how has your life been transformed through these series of stories?
Again, it's that creative outlet. I've always found a way to, I have my day job. I have a great, little pension waiting for me. That's great, and pay my bills, right? But I just need that creative outlet, and I think that's what gives me that drive just to, get up in the morning and do my thing and write. And I look at, I observe people, I observe bugs, and it's fun. It's like I'm curious. It's almost like being a child, like I'm able to live in that childish mind and just see what they would see. It's great. It's just a way of a good way of living, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome.
As far as transforming, like career-wise, not much in that case. Like I would continue writing, whether, even if it's for myself, I'd still write. It's just a great way to let feelings out, Yeah.
Now, where can people find you, Fernanda? Where can they go on social media?
I just joined social media. I know. So I have. I finally got myself a Twitter account. So it's @TilsonBugger, and then I have my website, and that it's tilsonbugger.com, and that's just
excellent.
Right there. Yeah.
Well, Fernanda, I have to say that I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon, face to face.
Yes. Yes.
And
in a couple of months, no?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's been a pleasure chatting with you today.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your time. Well, you have a good one.
Okay.
We'll talk soon. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.